because we're stubborn creatures of pattern and habit. We don't even allow for the opportunity for change to occur because we're so comfortably miserable in our reinforced patterns, impulses, instincts, and actions that it takes sometimes that gift of desperation to be able to have the humility to realize that this isn't the answer.
Ketamine Connections, the YouTube version. So happy to see you here. This community's growing. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. There's so many more things coming out. We're going to have hypnosis for ketamine integration, just a lot of things coming down the pipeline. So definitely subscribe, share with someone so that you can be in the conversation together. As a reminder, what you're about to see is a recording of a podcast episode. And if you want to listen to it, just audio only, go ahead and find Ketamine Connections podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And I look forward to seeing you there. Oh, and as a reminder, the Ketamine Starter Portal, the link is in the show notes, in the description rather. And that is where we have all of the free resources from over a year of weekly episodes. So check us out there, and I would love to see you inside the Ketamine Starter Portal. Ketamine Connections, let me ask you a question to consider. What do you think is stronger, a supercomputer or a regular computer? A cheetah running through the wild or an elephant walking through the savannah? Obvious answer. And when we think about it that way, also, what do you think is easier to turn around? If something is going at lightning speed, it is going to take a lot more effort to slow it down and turn it around. And that is what we get into today with part 2 of this episode with Dr. Austin Harris. We get into the conversation of the ego mind and the subconscious mind, the two parts of the brain that are not always on the same side. And this David and Goliath type of mix between the conscious and the subconscious mind means that it goes beyond just one infusion, just one ketamine session to make a difference. There is a whole integration protocol that we get into in the episode today. This is part 2. And in this second part, there's a lot more of my story that you'll get to hear about how I got to experience the other side of my ego, how I got to move past the threshold of the conscious and the subconscious mind, get to experience an entire world where I didn't have my old programming online, the programming that I mentioned in part 1. I need to fix it. It's all my fault. Everyone's watching me. We talked about that in part 1. I don't know if this part of the episode will make sense without part 1. Part 1 is from last week. Go ahead and check it out. If you end up listening to this part on its own, maybe it has exactly what you need. In any case, that was the story that I didn't even know I was carrying around, that through a high dose ketamine journey that I did at NeuroRelief in Sherman Oaks with Dr. Austin Harris pushed me through to the other side. And I talk about the world that I got to experience without that old ego online. I talk about what it was like to be in that place and also what it was like to come back to this 3D reality. And the point is, we're not meant to live in outer space. We're not meant to live in these esoteric realms. If we did, we wouldn't have human bodies. And the fact that we have human bodies shows that we are here to experience planet Earth. And so that is what we dive into today. Psychedelics are designed to shake up old patterns. And what happens is that without integration, without taking what you learn in a psychedelic state and bringing it to earth, right? To integrate is to make whole, to make it a part of your experience. Then people start believing that you need to go to these other realms to experience that state. A lot of people are coming to psychedelics to experience more happiness, more joy, more presence, and relief from the symptoms that ketamine is being used for, depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Now, I truly believe, and anyone that I know who is working with psychedelics in a way that I respect, meaning that they are going to journeys, taking time in between journeys to integrate, to land, to make the changes that the medicine shows them. The way that we're using psychedelics is we go, we experience a state of being we get the template of, okay, now I know what that feels like. So many people coming to ketamine, maybe you've forgotten, oh, yeah, this is what happiness feels like. This is what relief feels like. This is what lightness feels like. And I'm telling you, you don't need ketamine to feel that over and over again, but you go to the journey, you experience that state of being, and then you say, okay, great. What can I bring into my life on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, whatever it is, to feel more that way? And you start walking in that direction. You start moving in that path. I mentioned in part 1 of this episode, if a plane takes off, a plane from LA going to New York takes off and they shift their direction by 1 degree, they're going to end up in a totally different destination. And that is the power of integration, the power of making changes in your 3D reality so that your life day to day can be more like that psychedelic state. And then once that is integrated, once that is your regular life, if you need to change up the pattern again, then of course the medicine is always there. It really is the integration that takes ketamine from, oh, that's something I tried, or, oh, that was a nice experience, to ketamine changed my life. Is, what are you going to do with the experience, and how are you going to make the changes so that your life actually changes, right? It works if you do. Another thing that we talked about in this episode between part 1 and part 2 is how I have a high threshold for psychedelics, meaning that for me, with my neurobiology, with my ego state, with just my history and things like that, I need a higher dose to get into the journey. And then once I'm there, I can benefit from the psychedelic. And that's not for everyone. I want to be really clear. So this really unique protocol that Dr. Austin Harris is providing at NeuroRelief is something that is unique, that is super helpful for me. And not everyone needs to or wants to be blasted like that. But for me, it absolutely changed my life. It was something that I got to experience something new with ketamine that I honestly haven't in a long time. And having that sustained ego dissolution, like we talked about in part 1, where with other psychedelics, you can touch ego dissolution, you can have a moment of it. It's rare to have a sustained ego dissolution, and ketamine administered in this way provided that for me in a way that reinforced all the changes that I had already been making. My integration is ongoing. So I have a daily practice that includes, well, I don't do everything I'm about to list on the daily, but on a weekly basis, yoga, time in nature, meditation, hypnosis, journaling, and probably something else that I'm missing. So that was something that I was doing on the regular already. I was in my ego was already being dissolved by something that was happening in my life. I was having a lot of hard conversations. I was praying a lot for relief, and that's what I got at NeuroRelief. We've talked about ketamine tourism before on the show. If any of these clinics are resonating with you and you have the time and the resources to travel to experience different protocols, how cool is that to get to experience the same medicine in different ways? I know I got a lot out of the session that I had at NeuroRelief. I am so grateful to Dr. Austin Harris, not only for that session, but also being so generous with his information and his wisdom here on the show. And I really hope that you enjoy today's episode. You said this earlier in the episode today so beautifully. This is the part that shook me, of like how we create this ego illusion for a sense of separation. It's so clear to me, right? If my story that was playing in the background of my head, it's all my fault, I have to fix it, and everyone is watching me. And then there's no sense of like, well, then I'm definitely not going to ask for help because it's all my fault. So I better figure it out. I'm not going to connect with others, and I'm going to live in this state of isolation. It was under control. But what happened in the infusion is that I got to have a lived experience of on the other side of it. And it's so funny because I remember that part of the infusion because it's felt like every single ketamine session I've pretty much ever had, of like, oh, there's that ride. It's all my fault. I have to fix it. Everyone's watching. Everyone's waiting on me to figure it out. And then I remember coming back. I don't remember the threshold. I don't remember where it switched over, but I remember coming back And I had this moment as the IV fades out, right? And the medicine is dissipating and I'm just like, oh, I'm in a room. What room am I in? I'm in California. Like I didn't have any sense of not feeling safe. I was safe, but I was also disoriented. Landing back.
Well, of course, because your orienter, your ego, your thinker, right, is coming back online now, right? The medicine is worn off again very quickly because IV ketamine metabolizes in like seconds.
Wow.
So as soon as the infusion ends, that ego disillusionment state, we're going to metabolize off of that things. And you're going to come back through that range until you're, oh, got it. Anna, chair, Dr. Harris over there, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's exactly what happened was that, so I've had a lot of experiences of landing back. And I'm not just talking about psychedelics. I'm talking about like really deep meditation. Like I've studied meditation. I've studied yoga. I've studied so many mystical esoteric practices for the past 20 years. And I've had that moment. I also spent 10 years as a study abroad leader. So, you land in the middle of the night in a new city. You wake up the next morning. You're like, where am I? Who am I? What is this reality? So it's not just from psychedelics. Everyone has access to this kind of experience. And in the past, and I hear this a lot from clients too, of, oh no, how do I get back there? Right? Like, no, I want that back. And so the fact that I landed and was just like, because in my experience, so I pass through the threshold, I go from my old ego story of it's all my fault. I have to fix it. Everyone's watching me. And then I created a whole reality. I lived a whole different life on a different planet, like not just like for a few moments. Like I thought I lived there. I thought that was my reality. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Harris, Sherman Oaks, I'm Anna. Okay, I could do this. Like there was no disappointment. There was just like, oh, now it's this reality, which also in itself shows so much growth in the process because there were times where I would land into this reality, into this body, into this vessel, into this life. And I'd be like, no, not this one, please, just any other life. And so.
But see, that's the difference about when you do break through, right? When you do get that true, and not just for a moment, but for like hours, right? That state where it can become normalized. And that's important, both neurologically and psychologically. That state is sustained because you have an opportunity for that other processing system. I call it the subconscious, the inner healer, the higher self. We were all born with it, 100%. Right? We don't use it very much though, because it's a vulnerable system that we don't control.
And it makes no sense. You said this in the last
Because it's not supposed to make sense. It's not a thinking thing.
It's not a thinking thing.
It's an emotional processing, alignment, nudging algorithm. But it is a supercomputer, right? And I say this often. I may even have phrased this in the last podcast, but it's far more infinitely wise and nuanced than our thinking thing by orders of magnitude, right? But we don't trust it.
Right.
We don't let it guide us. We don't follow those nudges because it feels like we're giving up some sort of control equals safety thing. And we're being taught that it's not something we could do or should do.
Because it makes no
sense. That
it's
not safe.
How could we trust something that makes no sense?
To our thinking ego, minimal concept of self. Yes. And that's the sort of source of our struggle, and that may present in different people differently. But back to the duration of sustained peak effect. This is basic neuroscientific concepts.
Okay.
Right. And this is one of going back to why did I start doing this protocol differently than almost anyone else? Because it's common sense. Okay. It really is common sense.
Common sense is not common.
It's not. And it's, I guess, not profitable either, but to heck with it. Right. So when we want to change how our little thing in our head operates, we have to respect that our neuropsyche, our brain is designed evolutionarily not to change easily.
Exactly.
Okay. It's not supposed to. You wouldn't really want that in the big picture. It would be a chaos we would probably not survive, certainly not enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why that formative childhood developmental initial build is so important. We need to get that right because it's supposed to lay the groundwork for everything that follows. And we don't really want to mess that up unless we need to mess it up because it didn't happen the way that it should have. But we have to respect that innate cellular homeostatic neurologic resistance to change is baked into our DNA, right? So how are we going to basically convince our brain that this new paradigm that we're trying to say we are at least offering it is actually something we really wanted to act on versus shrug it off as an outlier like it's designed to do to 99.999 with a line over a percent of the new signals it gets, the new experiential signals or patterns. It's like it's designed to go, okay, back to the regularly scheduled broadcasting, right?
Was a fluke.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But what if we actually want it to take it seriously and go, no, hold the phone. This is actually what I want you to do for me now. Well, the factors just from neurology, right? Just neuroscience. It doesn't have anything to do with ketamine that allow us to overcome that resistance, whether it's a sound, a flash of light, repetitively, or whatever the signal is that we want our brain to not shrug off, instead go, okay, this is real. I'm going to start shifting how I operate to now incorporate this new pattern anatomically. We're talking about real neural pathways and roads here. We're not talking about woo-woo or just psychology. The way you overcome that inherent resistance is intensity of signal, dose, repetition of signal, frequency of same signal. In other words, the amount of time between each point of repetition and duration of the peak receptor or stimulation that signal induces.
Say more about that.
How long? Yeah, that's the kicker.
Okay.
How long did that signal at that level, was it consistently maintained in our experience?
Oh.
The duration of peak, because it's all about receptors, right? We experience data, sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, whatever. And we are able to experience that because certain neurologic receptors are absorbing that data and they're going, oh, yep, received. So of all those factors, dose and intensity, repetition, frequency between the repetitions, those are all important. But the one that our brain, the component of the signal that our brain puts at highest priority is the duration.
Okay.
It's not just how bright the light flashed on once.
Got it.
It's how long did it flash on for?
Wow.
That component of that experiential data, it looks at to judge legitimacy the most.
Right.
And in neuroscience, we call this veracity.
Okay.
Truthfulness, right? So it's common sense when you understand this. The longer you sustain the signal, the more likely our brain is going to go, oh, you're serious.
Yep.
You actually want me to do something about this. Right. All right, I'm game. Let's do it. And then you repeat that.
Yep.
And it goes, oh, yeah, okay, got it. All right, now we're cooking, right? Now you're actually shifting how your returning neuroplasticity, your road workforce is building now. It's building, it's laying the asphalt and more lanes in this direction now than this one, changing the preferential path of least resistance such that this new pattern, this new approach of way to feel between our over here-ness and that which is not us, this relationship and our what do we do in that experience, starts to instinctively change. It's not something we need to think about. It's simply happening on our behalf. And so drawing out the duration of the experience while maintaining the same depth of experience, right? You don't do one or the other. That this kills me. I've had patients tell me, I was out of town and I went to another clinic and I said I wanted a 2-hour infusion. And they said, well, I mean, we can make it last 2 hours. Oh, so you're going to double the amount of ketamine, right? No, the same dose. We'll just draw out the infusion for 2 hours, meaning they're getting half the depth of the experience the whole time, which is a complete waste, total waste.
Well, it's just not what you're going for, right? It's like, just a totally different effect, right? You're not pushing through to that threshold. You're not having that
No,
sustained experience
you're not
there.
really changing the paradigm. That's
Yeah.
not why we're doing this.
Exactly. And it's so interesting. I talk about this a lot with like the subconscious work that I've been doing for gosh, ever now. And the subconscious mind, to all your points, is it's hardwired for efficiency, right? And it's just like, just going to look in this direction, look in this direction, look in this direction. And then you say, well, no, I want you to look over here. And the subconscious mind's like, I'm trained to look over here. And so the way that it works is you have stimulus response, right? Then you go through this work where now through ketamine or whatever you're doing, you have a third response that you'd like to program in. You have a new response, right? Even if that new response is not going to that response, right? Like opening up your cognitive lens to go, okay, I'm conditioned for this way of thinking, right? I'm conditioned to automatically think whatever's happening in the world, it's my fault. I have to fix it. Everyone's watching me.
The true neurotic.
Thank you.
Wait, like I'm saying, most of us have been wired that way at this point.
I'm not special. I'm definitely not special. But that is right. That is stimulus. That's my automatic response. And then now for years and years, I've been, okay, what's another option? Right. And what I've been working on that's really serving me is multiple options, right? Well, what are 5 other ways I can like look at this, feel this, just like respond to this. Right. And so sometimes people hear like, oh, A, B, C, stimulus response, third way that I'm going to reprogram my mind into. And there's this desperation of like, great, for the rest of my mind, I have to watch my thoughts and go from take B to C, right? A happens and I have to go from B to C. But what we're doing, especially with ketamine, is that we're actually changing the biology because the subconscious mind is hardwired for efficiency. So what it does, it goes, oh, A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C. Well, B is so inefficient because every time I go to B, they're going to go to C. So let's take out the middleman and go from A to C. Now you're doing it on automatic. Now you don't have to think about it. Now you're able to live a whole new reality that is outside, right? That paradigm shift. You're no longer going for or against your conditioning. Now you're outside the box in a whole different way of seeing reality because we know we live in a holographic universe where we see everything as we are, not as it is. There is no objective reality. If there was, we would all be on the same page about everything, and that would be so boring.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that the uniting factor is the mindful approach, right? That we may feel differently about the reality. We may think differently about what the reality is, but the sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell stimuli, the number of euro falafel molecules that are floating for the air for us to inhale and experience are the same. We may inhale, experience, think, and feel about them differently, but the key is, and this is why in our program, we try to keep it so simple, right? We try the best we possibly can to stay out of the cognitive, to like you said, just skip over B and to try to help someone for themselves do that as efficiently as possible. Because I mean, for all of us, we have a psychedelic experience, ketamine, anything else, right? What is the first thing that happens? We come back from that and our ego wakes back up again and goes, I got to figure this all out. I got to reestablish my authority, my legitimacy, my stress response, figuring out what was the threat here thing, right? And then hopefully that dissipates and equilibrates over time. But it's kind of inevitable, especially if we're wired to do that too much. But what's the easiest, what's the simplest way for someone who doesn't understand what C is in real life, right? They had this experience. They got on the other side. They have no idea what the heck that was. They wake up, maybe, especially after maybe their first experience like that, their defense mechanisms may be trying to retaliate a little bit.
Totally.
Now what do I do? What am I supposed to do with this? And so in our program, we utilize guided mindfulness meditation, very specific, not the other 99 techniques of meditation. Mindful cognitive behavioral exercise It's not true CBT. We're not thinking differently about our thinking. I don't believe in that. You're just reinforcing that internal apart from mechanism and tickling it in different ways. I think that practically, experientially, functionally, the whole point of all this is for us to do, groove, and invest the bandwidth of our awareness out here, not try to go through the gymnastics of analyzing and intellectualizing.
Right.
But instead, the application of that ego disillusionment, of that experiential realization that I don't need to figure it all out. My joy, my comfort actually is in the fact that 99.9% of the sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell stimuli that are out here in front of me, with me here now, are somehow to my benefit. So where should my focus be? Here, out here, right now. Palm tree, mountains in the distance. Maybe too much smog between me and it right now, but I can feel that too. That's okay.
Feeling.
Right? It's okay. I notice, I can feel it. I can absorb that and then move on to something else that maybe feels better. That's my power. But it's all out here and I don't need to think about it. And so in mindful CBT and mindful meditation, we are following very simple directions. And in our program, you're following the directions of the people in the world that do this the best. From Eckhart Tolle to Adi Asante, Victoria Steele, Michael Stone, Carl Langard, Jean Kabat-Zinn, Tara Brach, Chris Stevens, right? I mean, these are like from the horse's mouth, right? And we use a resource, and then we've designed a program that's structured in time throughout each day to use that resource, again, neuroscientifically. And then the mindful CBT exercise is about then proactively versus someone telling you, like, feel your foot, right? Take a deep breath, right? To be able to proactively choose or receive stimulation and therefore the emotions from that experience or feelings, right? And validate that. Just sit in it for a second, right? And there's an exercise that our clients do. Then they're working with a certified integration and recovery coach for 5-hour-long sessions between their ketamine infusion experiences over 6 weeks. Over 3 weeks, 6 infusions, 5 integration sessions to further reinforce this functionally with someone in real time. And then try to apply that in the context of their particular life and personality structure so that they can do differently. And they all have me in their back pocket, right? They have my cell phone number that I'm answering all the time, 7 days a week, as that sort of overarching guide and support system that is unique to them as an individual. And we have to do this stuff. If we don't do this stuff, and I know it's hard, right? It sure as heck isn't profitable. It's energy, it's bandwidth, it's sublimating. You're working with people that are going through challenging feelings, that are going through oscillating defense mechanisms during this transformational process. But when you do it, the outcomes are incredible, right? The real shift, the real healing, the real growth that you can see, that you can feel. There's just no higher reward, and profit margin be damned.
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about the outcomes because everything that you're talking about. So then I was at your clinic at the beginning of April. Throughout the month of April, I was practicing one thing more than I was practicing anything else. And it's this concept of what's real is the sensation, not the story. Right. And so, for example, my old story, right? It's all my fault. I have to fix it. Everyone's watching me. And so it's that sensation is really uncomfortable, right? Trying to fix things was my comfort zone for sure, but it's that sensation of, okay, now I'm able to, and I've seen it so much in the past week, especially just with different things going on. The full moon at the beginning of this week had me show up for multiple uncomfortable, it felt like a marathon of uncomfortable conversations.
You went through the gauntlet.
Heck yeah. And I loved it. I like came out the other side dancing and smiling because I was like, I'm going to hold my truth. I'm going to hold my center and I was able to be in the discomfort without needing to fix it, change it, or feel responsible for it.
Or react.
Yeah. It's just literally, it's like there's no sense of over functioning, right? It's just like, oh, you're uncomfortable, like, cool. Or I said something and now I'm noticing, right? Because a force of trauma is hypervigilance. So I'm able to track people's like micro movements in the muscular structure of their face. And I have my own projections and interpretations of what that means. And so I say something and I watch someone's face shift and I'm like, oh no, I made someone uncomfortable. Like, oh no, I said the wrong thing. And then just being like, cool. I don't have to do anything about that. I could sit here and just be with the discomfort, that the level of discomfort that I can handle now. And I will say that right after I visited your clinic, I got slapped upside the head with another spiritual lesson that knocked me out for a while. Like it's the biggest one that I've had since the one that happened in November. It was another layer of that, right? It's like these lessons unfold in layers. And so I was in, a lot of crisis, a lot of deep processing, which is also what happens, because here's what I know. I went to this other planet, whatever. We could say I pushed through the threshold and I experienced what it's like to live outside of my ego over functioning part of my conscious mind. And I went to this other reality that was, I can like feel it now. It was beautiful. It was free. It was expansive. And
but also simple.
So simple, so freaking simple. And really what I've been able to do through all the practices that I have, because I do my work outside of everything. Every single day I show up for the work, because it is work, right? To look at your shit, to examine your thoughts.
You have to put in the time and the investment.
And in that, I do a lot of my spiritual work in my bathtub, actually. Just like at the end of the day, like Epsom salt soak and just like, okay, like processing. And I would be in a process of like, wow, I just spent like 8 hours of my day crying today. Let me just go like relax for a minute. It was deep. And then I would just like relax in the bath and I would go to that place. And there is imagery there. I have a lot of clients share their imagery with me of like outer space, deep ocean, whatever it is. I'm not going to share my imagery because A, it's ineffable and I can't put it into words. And B, it's just mine. I will never share it with anyone. Like it is just for me and I can literally have access to it anytime when I want to. And I've been practicing consciously and unconsciously, right? Intentionally and unintentionally. I'll just go there. And it's reinforcing of like, wow, I have access to real peace, to real freedom, to real simplicity, right? I have access to that any time that I want. So I'll be in an uncomfortable situation. There's a group that I'm a part of here. What is it called? T group, where it's a form of communication that we practice that is designed to be different, and different is uncomfortable. And I was at T group just this past Sunday and man, I was ruffling feathers, like, and I didn't care. I didn't care. I was just able to be with that discomfort and simultaneously be with the discomfort and be with the peace, be with the like, oh, this is where I used to try to fix it or explain it or something, which also doesn't work in the format that we use for that group for that reason. And just be like, cool, I'm going to let you have your experience. You're uncomfortable. Like that's your gift. You get to do what you want with that. I'm not responsible. It's not my fault. I don't have to fix it. And I don't care if anybody's watching. Like, holy crap. Like totally new paradigm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. A beautiful shift. And it's one of the reasons I enjoy talking to you so much is with your background, you are so able to articulate the bringing some of these experiential paradigms back into the real world, right? Embodying them, explaining what that feels like. And that's what real integration is about. Too often people think of integration work as, well, let's talk about your experience. What did you see? What do you think that means? Nonsense. Total nonsense. Stop intellectualizing something that was not designed for cognitive teasing or parsing. Okay. It was a subconscious code that was experientially offered to us that embedded in that already, okay, was the nudge and alignment towards better paradigms, relationships, and proportions. The offloading, the release, and the resolution of subconscious and usually unreachable emotional conflicts from a thinking perspective, that offloading, all that was happening at the same time. That's the wisdom of that subconscious system. It was all embedded in the feelings that the data of that experience engendered in us as it was happening.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with what you think about it. It was, and the example I always give is when you listen to a song, you're not, as you're listening to it, thinking about what each note means. It's not for that. You feel how this very intentional progression of notes and other content felt as an emotional feeling, sort of spiritual experience. You're not thinking. That's what it's all about. You're in that subconscious flow state. What it means was embedded in how did it make you feel.
Right.
It doesn't require any cognitive analysis. It just requires us having the courage and the humility to allow that to continue resonating in a similar pattern back in reality. And so the integration exercise that I do with clients, especially after their first one, is all about that. No talking about content, just bringing them sort of back into that thoughtless, open, vulnerable state, and then having them be able to own and name what are the feelings that they're feeling as they're refeeling that flow.
Yeah.
Because that's us bringing that back and embracing that, combining it now into the present as a learned experience.
Yeah. And that's what you were saying earlier, right? Is like true learning is embodied, right? There's a muscle memory, and there's so much to that as well. Not just muscle memory, but we're talking about thoughts. Every thought produces a chemical. We get addicted to the chemicals that our thoughts produce. It's like this feedback loop that we're always on. And to interrupt it takes repetition. It takes bravery and courage to even go there. And to your point earlier, sometimes that's out of desperation. And that's a great place to be. For me, absolutely, it has been out of desperation, I would say 80% of the time. And so
that's why I call it a gift.
Exactly.
Because we're stubborn creatures of pattern and habit, right? We don't even allow for the opportunity for change to occur because we're so comfortably miserable in our reinforced patterns, impulses, instincts, and actions that it takes sometimes that gift of desperation to be able to have the humility to realize that this isn't the answer.
Oh, I've been brought to my knees.
Been there. That's why I do this.
All the best people have.
I look back on the people that have been sort of my idols or mentors. It's always the case.
Absolutely. And to the case too, right? Of like, man, if it's just like, oh, everything, like think about a travel story, right? Again, I was a study abroad leader. All of my travel stories, the good ones are things going wrong and how we recovered from it, right? And it's the same with this, right? It's just like, oh man, that relationship. And I just was like, I can't do this again. I'm dating the same person on repeat. I can't do that. Or
over and over again. It's my father. It's my mother. Again. Trying to fix what I couldn't fix as a child. Again.
It's the regularly scheduled program. And oh crap, it's not my partner. Now it's my boss. And it's not my boss. Now it's the car mechanic. And it's just like over and over. And if you have the courage and the wherewithal to just like drop to your knees for a second and just be like, what is this? Right. And it's like our brain is designed to answer questions when we ask good questions, which is something that I always offer up as well. Because if the question is, why does this keep happening to me? That's not a great question. But how do I take responsibility and shift out of it? That's a way better question. And so
it's not that it keeps happening to us.
It's for us.
It's that we keep engaging or investing our bandwidth, effort, and awareness in a similar pattern and therefore getting similar results.
Because it's comfortable.
Right? It's what we know. And it was wired, ingrained, those instincts, actions, to the point of even attraction. Like, what are we attracted to? We usually are attracted to trying to fill some void that didn't get filled back when we really needed it. And we think that's just us, like that's just what we like. No, it's something far more pathologic usually and dysfunctional. So if we can instead address the void, to be comfortable to acknowledge and try to find other means of filling that in terms of validation, emotional consistency, love, and investing our awareness in what models to me the pattern in someone else that I want the results, right? That's what the whole sponsor-sponsee relationship is built on, right? Is find someone who has what you want, in terms of a life structure, and do what they do. That is different than us keep going back to the broken parental archetypes or what have you that didn't work. It didn't work for them. It sure as heck didn't work for us. So how about we get away from that and find a different destination, a different target, a different goal.
Yeah. And with so much love and compassion, because sometimes we get into this thing of, well, I don't want to betray my lineage, right? And it's just coming to that place of like, my caretakers did the best that they could. I know they did. And it wasn't what I needed. And so now as an adult, knowing my needs, knowing what I require, I have a responsibility to do better for myself. And betrayal or treachery or whatever, like, let's let go of that and just say, let's just keep doing better. Right now, we know better. Now I know what it's like to be on the other side of that threshold. Guess what? I know when I go back to that old story, it doesn't quite register in my system anymore. I'm just like, it kind of passes through, right? It used to, a lot of times with trauma, we talk about hooks, right? So it's like something would happen and I'd be hooked. It's all my fault. I have to fix it. Everyone's watching, and it would be a hook. And now I'm like riding this train in this direction. And now it's like, the train passes by and I'm just like, oh, there's that old story. Like, oh, love you. Like, bye. I'm just going to sit here and be uncomfortable with my fellow human and just like be human together. Like, I didn't create anything.
Absolutely.
It's not my fault. I don't have to fix it. I'm just going to let that train go by.
Totally. And I love how you said that. I equate the hook to still having too much back pressure behind the dam of unprocessed emotional conflict, right? When we get to a critical mass, because human beings were never supposed to be in this sustained state of suppress and override.
Totally.
Right? That wasn't the thing. It was run from the lion, hunt the mammoth, fight off the attacking tribe, and then stop. We'll let it all out together, reset, and move forward in a balanced, aligned humility, acceptance, gratitude approach with the world again. Well, we don't do any of that anymore. We don't even know how. We weren't taught. We weren't trained. We're not getting that from anywhere. So getting that back pressure to siphon off, right? So that it doesn't feel so volatile to just open up into feeling. That defense structure is trying to hold back the I don't control if some of this starts to register on the way out. Well, it's going to reach a critical mass, in which case you're going to become totally dysregulated. It's not sustainable. But the more you do the work, the more you allow these moments of uncomfortability. That isn't just something that happened from, I saw somebody cut somebody off on the road, or maybe they cut me off on the road. What did that feel like? Well, that just wasn't just from that moment.
Exactly.
It's also from whatever that hooked.
Exactly.
Right? That's from before. And you felt that together. So the more we let ourselves, we don't have to sit in it. We don't have to ruminate in it, but just let ourselves feel it, let it pass through. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Not only did that not become a new fixation or reaction, but it also took with us something that we didn't need as well. And that was some processing too. And it's doing that more and more and more. And then, of course, ego disillusionment, letting that really high level efficiency occur in a sustained ketamine infusion is incredibly efficient at offloading and depressurizing. And you feel that. You feel more able to functionally just be present because you're not so fearful.
Exactly.
That if I feel something, it's going to take all of a sudden this like eruption of old stuff is just going to come raw out into that experience because you're feeling like that back pressure isn't really as much there.
Exactly. I was just having this conversation with a client last week where she needed to have an uncomfortable conversation with someone. And she was like, full stop, not going there. And I go, okay, respect. Let's go there. Let's go to the worst case scenario of this conversation.
Yeah, let's go through it. Let's practice this scenario.
Well, let's go straight to the worst case scenario of you hear the feedback you get is the worst case scenario, the worst thing you could possibly hear. What is the feedback? Great. That's the feedback. What would you feel? I would feel really angry, sad, and uncomfortable. Great. Go feel that. Now you're not afraid of that conversation, because all we're doing is walking around going, oh, I can't experience this thing. Why? Because of the emotion that we haven't been practicing to let ourselves feel it, right? The rejection, the embarrassment, the shame, like, it's like, oh no, if I feel that thing, I don't want to feel it. Now I've created a whole existence, a whole reality, a whole life, a whole ego state to protect from those 60 to 90 seconds of discomfort.
And now you're not in reality anymore, right? Now we're missing out on the 99.9% that could be feeling some sort of sense of substance or stability in our reality, because we're trying to avoid the 0.01 in terms of the total number of stimuli or experiences or feelings. And that is inherently depressing.
It is.
Right? So it's no big surprise that we have that depression has become the number one source of disability claims in the world.
Wow.
It overtook chronic back pain about 3 years ago.
Wow.
So why is this happening at scale? It's not because somehow we're suddenly genetically predisposed to become depressed. That's total utter nonsense. Because the patterning, right, generation by generation over the last few has gotten so bad that we're operating in this, I'm in here apart from, I'm in control, this makes me safe, I'm going to give up the 99.9% to avoid the potential 0.01 that might actually feel truly threatening,
right,
is inherently depressing.
You're right.
So we got to reverse that as a practical matter. And I think that's what mindful meditation, mindful CBT, integration coaching, and a lot of other modalities. This is what we do. I think it's the most efficient in a short period of time. But all the other things you mentioned, right? The hypnotherapy, the spiritual work, the yoga, right? These are actually all mindful activities. Because really, what does mindfulness mean? The alternative of thinking. If you're not thinking, if you're not investing any bandwidth in here, then 100% of your bandwidth is where I focus, not just visually, but where I give my awareness, I will feel.
Yeah.
Where I focus, I will feel. If I focus on sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell, that's what I'm feeling. That's my reality. That's the data that's being prioritized. That's my greater sense of self.
Right.
And instead, if I focus on my thinking, that's what I'm feeling.
And it's actually avoiding feeling it, right? It's like the thinking is the thing to, for example, I've worked a lot. I have an ADHD diagnosis from childhood before it was cool, before everyone was self-diagnosing with it.
We all know where that really comes from.
Trauma.
Of course.
And it's this overactive mechanism of, I don't feel safe in this moment, which makes sense with just like my history of like not speaking the language, being in a school where I got bullied, like all of that stuff where it's just like, whoa, I can't be here. So my mind would shoot out. And now
would dissociate.
Correct. And now I've been practicing this for a long time, because the thing that's really fascinating to me as I've really learned about this is that that window of tolerance, right? And so it's like when things get too uncomfortable and go low, I would dissociate and my mind would start being in other planets. And as I raised that bottom limit, it would happen with joyous moments. I would be out with friends or at a concert and my mind would go somewhere else. And I would have to practice being, okay, what's unsafe in this moment in my body? And if I'm truly unsafe, if I'm truly uncomfortable, I have so much free will, get out of here. But can I actually bring my mind back into the present moment? And knowing now that if my mind is shooting out, it's like, okay, what's in here that I'm not willing to feel in this moment? Can I bring even the tiniest 2 seconds of awareness to it to actually be like, oh, this is actually more love than I've felt in a long time.
Yeah. Because that's what we end up giving up, right? And you said this so beautifully, actually, at the beginning of this all. When we are so programmed, usually young, that feeling things we don't control is bad. Because back then it was.
Right.
It wasn't 99.9 to 0.01, right? It was a way worse ratio. So our defense structure did exactly what it was supposed to do. It tried to find the least unsafe feeling place. And as a child, that's what we're born with, right? The difference is the ratio has changed, right? But you said it so beautifully, and that is when we try to artificially sustain that middle ground, we lose both.
Exactly.
Because it's not real, right? You're just feeling your thoughts, which aren't real.
Right.
So now you can't feel joy. As I said, you can't think joy. Why would we have the same trauma avoidance dissociation response to joy that we would to threat or pain? It's simply the same avoidance of not feeling anything we don't control.
Exactly.
And you can't control feeling joy. That's why it's joyful. If you tried to control it, it wouldn't be fun. It would be joy.
Nope.
Right? That's by definition, joy is a spontaneous, uncontrolled emotional transference of something that is not us that we feel.
Right.
And it just sort of feels special because it's like, oh, wow, little old me got to feel something like the world, the everything that's bigger than me is like touching me here. And it feels so good. I feel so special to be a part of that. Right. If you try to control, which just means feeling your own thoughts, you can't have that.
Exactly.
You'll have the exact same response to joy as you would to pain and suffering.
Yeah, there's that old Adam Sandler movie. I've been talking about it a lot recently, Click, where he gets a remote so he can fast forward his chores. And then all of a sudden he's like fast forwarding moments of joy that he likes. He's like, wait, I don't want to fast forward that. And it's the same thing. You can't fast forward the discomfort, the agony, the whatever, the ickiness, the uncomfortability.
Because that's what it means to feel alive.
Exactly. We get to expand and into this experience of like, wow. And then also getting to the place like we haven't even touched this and we're not going to today. Multiple truths. I can feel uncomfortable and happy at the same time. I can hold like when we get out of this binary existence of like, I feel bad. I want to feel good.
Good, bad.
Exactly. And we're able to be like, whoa, I can feel bad and good at the same time. Like that's so psychedelic. That's so like, wow.
Very much so. I get that a lot when I do that post-integration exercise with clients is they'll be like scared, joy, warm, comfort, dark, light, flow, safe. And it's like, if you just said that to someone out of context, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Right? You're contradicting yourself. These are oxymorons.
Right.
No, it's not. It's that state of being able to feel what we don't control and realizing that's okay, that we get to feel all these different nuances at different moments. And the collective of that is, I'm feeling alive.
I think we need to end right there. I'm feeling alive. I'm feeling so alive. Thank you for inviting me to the clinic. Anna. Thank you for this conversation, the follow-up. And I do want to end on this note of, we've talked a lot about like what we're talking about in this episode was something that worked really well for me because I have a high threshold for psychedelic use because of my past experience, trauma, and all of the work that I do outside of it. A high dose, long sustained ketamine session was epic. And if anyone's listening to this going, oh, that ketamine session like healed her, like, no, it was everything coming together. It was a holistic model.
It's an opportunity.
Exactly. It's a push over the edge, but I was already climbing that mountain and I would have kept climbing. By the way, I would have gotten here no matter what, but with the right tools, with the right support, with working with people that know what the heck they're doing, you're able to press the fast forward button. You're going to get there. You're going to get to your healing. You're going to get where you're going. If you keep at it, you keep asking the right questions and you keep persevering, which this community I know is doing because I talk to the listeners and they're talking about journeys that they've been on to feel good for 20 plus years. Like you're still going, you're still healing, like you're going to get there with the right support. Ketamine can fast forward that, right? But just really saying like, hey, if someone's listening and they're like, I've been trying ketamine and it's not quite getting me there, maybe trying a protocol like this, right? Like I'm becoming such an advocate. I travel to your clinic. I don't live in California, but really.
And we have a lot of folks that travel. We've treated people from all 5 continents at this point that don't
Wow.
have ice on them.
That don't have so it's really like, hey, like if there was something in this episode that resonated, like reach out to Dr. Harris. Like, wow, we'll have your contact information in the notes. I know you're so generous with the way that you serve. So reach out to you, reach out to me, like reach out to us and say like, hey, like let me have a conversation. Maybe I need a longer session. Maybe I need a dose that's going to kick me out of that default mode network.
And for the record, just for folks that are listening, we're going to customize the dose, right? So where we start is just where we start. That's what the real titration is about, moment by moment. So you're coming from multiple sessions. We're going to start to someone who's not gotten ketamine before on the low end, right? I gave you the dose you received because we spent the time, we talked about what your previous experiences were like. I do think that it's not just emotional tolerance to psychedelics. There is a metabolic component as well. There are genetics that are a part of that. That's a real thing, but also the adaptation, right? It's not like you have the same tolerance when you were born, the same liver metabolism. What you experience changes that. You've had a lot of psychedelics. They've been metabolized. You've had both the emotional and the chemical or the physiologic sort of processing of that. So all these factors matter to why I gave you the dose that you received. And even that we were adjusting in real time to optimize, right? But to someone who's coming in, as most people do, sort of naive, first time, maybe even first time ever having tried a psychedelic experience, just know we're not going for a universe exploding and all this. That's not like our goal on your very first experience. Our goal on the first experience is just to learn, right? We start low. We're analyzing body language, speech phonation, eye movement, vital signs, how we trial different things. We're interacting with you, where you'll feel the hand on your shoulder saying, like, hey, you're doing wonderful. Would you like to go a little deeper? Whatever you're feeling, would you like a little bit more of that? And we're analyzing all this data and making adjustments accordingly, and then talking with you afterwards about it to learn what was it like really on your side coming through, or at least your recollection of it. So all this matters in us dosing and adjusting that constantly throughout the program. And so just don't be anxious that somehow you're going to have this like ego death experience at NeuroRelief and your first ketamine experience. We'll work together to find the right balance, the right sort of progression. But I'm just so grateful to hear your feedback, Anna, from your experience here, to see that go full circle was such a wonderful opportunity for me. So thank you for putting your faith in us. And we're grateful.
We're so grateful. What was the word that I was in a share circle recently and said, how are you feeling? Belligerent gratitude. That is across the board. I just feel belligerent gratitude for you, for the clinic.
That is so cool.
Process, the protocol that you've developed, that you advocate for, that is pretty radical. And like belligerent gratitude that you read your intuition and trusted me to handle that kind of experience. And it changed my life. And we're 6 weeks out from when it happened. And it just keeps getting better, because that's also the power of integration, right? It goes beyond the ceremony, where it's like, okay, I've lived this reality. Well, first I crashed into like a deep, dark hole of despair, which is everything that needed to get clear for me to experience this. I know this. I know how this
But some of that was contextual. That wasn't just from the ketamine.
Oh, it was 100% not from the ketamine. It was 100% my life. It was just, if you want to get to, right? It's like
the irony of them all happening at the same time, notwithstanding.
It's so perfect. It has to happen in this way for me to sit in this moment in belligerent gratitude. Like I couldn't be belligerently gratitude if I didn't have a peak experience at your clinic and then an immediate crash into a part of my reality.
And then
I wasn't
an
addressing.
Immediate need to use that somehow.
Exactly. And it's all perfect. It's this old spiritual joke of like, well, I want to be more patient. Guess what? You're going to be bombarded with things that are going to make you impatient until you can transcend them to feel patient. So it's all so perfect.
So you can let them just flow through.
Exactly. What did I feel in that other past the threshold? Peace, joy, freedom. Guess what came crashing down after that? Everything that was keeping me from feeling that. It's all clear now. Till next time.
I love that word freedom, because until we realized that we didn't need that wall, we didn't need that defense structure, we're actually not feeling freedom.
Right.
We're reinforcing our own kind of imprisonment. Those guards on the castle wall that were supposed to face outwards and protect us from the monsters and dragons,
Right.
that was way back when.
Right.
Now they're facing inwards. They're keeping us from realizing we don't need them and stepping outside the walls and realizing, actually, it's great out here. We're good. We're good.
I like it out there. Dr. Harris, thank you so much. We'll have all of your links in the show notes. Thank you for your generosity in all the ways, your time at the clinic, your time being on the show twice now, just like being who you are, is just such a gift to the world. So thank you for that.
Likewise, Anna, you're remarkable. Please keep doing what you're doing. You're a light in this field, and I'm really grateful that you've had me on twice now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey friends, thank you so much for joining me today on Ketamine Connections. I hope that this episode inspired you. I hope that it uplifted you. And I hope it just expanded your mind in some way with some perspective shift. We have been running this show for over a year now, which is incredible. And after more than 50 episodes, we have so many different resources to offer you. And we took all of those resources, we put it into one place called the Ketamine Starter Portal. Check that out in the show notes. Everything you need is there. All of our guides, anything that we've talked about on the show is in that portal. And it's also the best way to get in contact with me, since we are not allowed to talk about psychedelics on social media. Being on the email list is the best way to get updates, to get all of the information that you need, and to stay in touch. So I really hope to see you in there.